It is 6 o'clock. It is time to call to order open session. Roll call.
Val Wright. Susan Brownell. Here. Gretchen Ross.
Here.
Chris Castillo.
Here.
Carrie Cook.
Here.
All the present.
Item 1.2, approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Brownell. Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Friend.
Aye.
And trustee Wright.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
1.3, public comment for closed session items. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak during or closed session? Okay, seeing none, we will go into closed session. In open session.
Okay, reporting out from closed session, the board voted.
Hold on, we gotta do this first. Pledge of allegiance.
Oh,
Before we do the pledge of allegiance, being that it's Patriot Day, let's take a moment of silence first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now report on closed session.
now. So the board voted 5-0 to accept 2.1 personnel assignment order.
All right, for public input, 4.1 correspondence. There is a letter. I'll let you.
So the school district and the board president received a letter from the San Luis Obispo County Office of Education that looked at the 24-25 fiscal year approved budget and our LCAP. Those were processed by the board and approved prior to June 30th. And in that letter, our superintendent, Dr. James Fresh, our county superintendent, Dr. James Brescia, approved our LCAP and our budget for the year. So that was our correspondence.
All right, sorry, I'm going ahead too. 4.2, public comment. At this point in the agenda, it's appropriate for anybody to have any comment on something on the agenda or something not on the agenda within our purview. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment? Seeing none, we're moving ahead. 5, presentations, ASB.
So today we have two come on up and Mr. Todd will show you where to speak from. We have two ASB students. We have Ella and Harper, and both of them, we have one 8th grader and one 7th grader, and they're going to let you know about our first almost full month of school for the 24-25 school year. So go ahead, the floor is yours, Ella and Harper.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ella, your ASB president, and I'm Harper, an ASB member. Leadership is now offered as a class for middle school students, allowing us more time for more ideas, more planning, more activities, more service, and more fun. We kicked off the 2024-25 school year with our first pep rally. Its focus was to review our student body's policy on kindness, respect, responsibility, and safety with clear skits on each subject. We also rallied up our fall sports athletes, recognizing our girls volleyball, cross country, and flag football players. We recognize that all students have the potential to be great leaders. This fall, we have a lot on our agenda. We held a class dress-up competition in honor of Patriot Day. We're also gearing up to host ASB's first fundraising car wash on Saturday, September 21st, from 12 to 3. If your car is in need of a good scrubbing, please come see us.
Can you say the date again?
21st.
21st.
We're also hosting a middle school movie night on Friday, September 27th. ASB will continue to fundraise by selling concessions like popcorn and candy at the show. We are mainly fundraising for activities like our fall costume dance, but also providing prizes for dress-up days, class competitions, and lunch tournaments. We're currently hosting middle school lunchtime volleyball tournament, and next week we're going to begin signing up for our 4th and 5th grade kickball tournament. ASB sports commissioners and representatives are We're busy choreographing dances and planning some lip sync for our rocker, your school assembly, and organizing activities for October's Red Ribbon Week. On top of all these event activities, we are learning about keeping minutes, budgeting, and making good decisions for the students we represent. As always, we thank you for your time and continued support.
Do you guys have any questions for our representatives?
That's amazing. I have a comment. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, they're working incredibly hard for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, 5.2 PTA.
So, as you guys know, go ahead, John. We have, every July 1st, our PTA board, depending on their cycle of, how many years in the office the board members will be, they elect a new board. So we have a new board PTA president. And he is here today to do the PTA, announcements and then also really, talk about what he sees as the vision of our PTA. So this is John McGee. He also highlights, I should say, not highlights, moonlights as a substitute teacher for us whenever we're hard pressed to find someone. So it's amazing. So this is John McGee. He has 2 daughters in our school, and he is your PTA president for the 24-25 school year.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Jen. I'm honored to be up here. Yeah, we pretty much turned over the whole board last year, from last year to this year. Robin, Celine, and Roberta Held came back to the board, functioning as treasurer and secretary. And then we have Sarah Spindell as vice president. And she comes over from Del Mar and is active in the Del Mar PTA, so we'll be able to glean some great ideas off of that and different things that they got involved in. I am a holdover from last year's board. I was treasurer last year. We had recently meeting to approve our budget on back to school nights, and we met yesterday in history classroom to have a meeting to kick off the year. We had good attendance, it was really well attended, and lots of new members. We discussed the carnival, we discussed a gala that we are cooking up for early next year, be a winter carnival, not carnival, but gala. So a formal night out for parents in the community to attend. And some of our silent auction is going to be transferred into that event. We are thinking about venues at the Veterans Hall as a primary spot that should be open by then. Having a meeting with the Veterans Hall committee tomorrow, the Parks and Recs department, and with the Lions Club. I'm also a member of the Lions Club. Should have some more clarity in the coming days on whether or not we can get that, but it's really up to the finishing of the construction and getting everything done, which we know has not been according to schedule. All of our efforts now are in a membership drive to increase attendance, to get involvement from new people that are in the school, new parents, and some old parents too that have been around. We want to bring it back to where we're getting more input and more people's voices are heard on a consistent basis. So we have in-person meetings as opposed to the Zoom style meetings that we've been accustomed to since COVID, really. So we had some good feedback on that venue. We hope to keep improving that. Some other community events that we have the Kaikus Turkey Trot, which my wife and I run. We donated a fair amount of money to it last year. We usually split our proceeds with the California Highway Patrol, Widows and Orphans Fund, and the Kaikus Elementary School. And it's a growing event. This is going to be the 3rd annual coming up. Last year we at least quadrupled our income, and we expect that to keep growing because we're advertising more. It's more of a word of mouth thing that's growing organically. And of course, the Easter egg hunt was a hit in the spring. I was an Easter bunny for that too. And I'm running into people that are telling me that, yeah, they love the Cayucas, Easter egg hunt. And they can't wait to get back to that. And I can tell them my little secret was I was the Easter bunny taking pictures of their kids and they weren't even attending the school. So we'll do that again. And we'll have other things too, and we'll be keeping you up to date. Does anyone have any questions about anything specific or what we're thinking? Yes.
Well, I know you said you're gonna move the silent auction or whatever more to the gala. I hope you still have the silent auction, because I know that's one of the main reasons a lot of people come to the carnival. I mean, I would like you to, and that's a huge fundraiser. So
Yeah.
hopefully you,
Traditionally it has. And we're sensitive to that too, and it's been made clear to us that, there's going to be something for the community to have fun bidding on. We're thinking about having a bingo element to that inside of the auditorium venue, and we're going to be using the Lionesses bingo equipment, which if you haven't seen it, it's pretty nice looking. If it still works, it's been in the garage for 5 years. So we're gonna have to test that, but we're just thinking of more things that'll be fun and engaging for our community members that show up at Carnival. We're not taking away their option to bid on things and get involved that way. But
I'm a lioness too, and the bingo is a huge undertaking with the licenses and all that you have to do. You can't have any, to me, that seems odd because you can't have anyone that's underage in there.
right, we discussed that at length yesterday too.
Really?
For a
Yeah. They can't even be sitting. They can't even be in the room. Yeah.
okay.
I
yeah.
promise I did not throw.
No,
These were some of the same comments we had at long discussion at the PTA meeting yesterday.
No, I mean, I remember the headaches with the bingo can be successful we did it as a one-time thing, but if you're doing too many other things, and if the whole point of a carnival is kiddos, it seems to be a mismatch.
Yeah, well, it's under discussion and it's something that we can, at the last minute, if it's not gonna work, we can pull the plug if it, logistically is not going to be feasible, but, it's just on the table because we wanna have something for our older adult, members and of the community that they can come in and enjoy Carnival, but they're not necessarily interested in ringing the bell outside or the cakewalk or anything like that, so. We want to have something for everyone, but we feel like the value add for the Winter Gala is that for a venue that could hold upwards of 180 people that are all out celebrating and looking at auction items in a room where they could bid on them while they're having a good time drinking or competing against each other, it could be there's plenty of anecdotal evidence that has been really a successful way to have those type of events, meaning it could bring in maybe tens of thousands of dollars more than we were used to seeing on the carnival. So that's the idea. Plus, there's a lot of enthusiasm with our fundraising team that is very insistent that this is the direction they want to go, and they're really getting burned out doing just the carnival the way it is. It has a lot to do with carnival being in the second full month of school and the amount of planning and sacrifice in these first 2 months to get to that point requires a lot of sacrifice from the people that are organizing that. But we feel like we have a really good team that is experienced in throwing these kind of things. One, my wife did this for Wishing Well 2 years ago. Katie Madonna, who led all of our previous efforts, is a pro at this by now and knows how to get those packages together. So we have some 2 to 3 more people that are really enthusiastic about helping out and have some experience too. So we feel like we got the personnel and the desire to have a really good event in the winter as well as a great carnival. So that's about all I have.
John, you volunteer so much in the community and you've taken on this task of being our PTA president and you've done it with such grace and really heartfelt. When he presented in front of, you were actually there, Trustee Ross was there when he presented it in front of the parents at our back to school night. You haven't taken this job lightly. You've really been pensive about what you want to bring back to the school and the community, and we super appreciate that.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, 6.1, regular meeting minutes from August 14th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to accept regular meeting minutes of August 14th. Or adopt them, accept them.
Approve.
I knew it began with an A.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Friend.
Aye.
Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Brown. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so now we need to adjourn to the public hearing, so we're adjourning for a minute.
We are adjourning to the open hearing regarding sufficiency and insufficiency of curriculum and instruction materials for the 24-25 school year. Every year is required by Ed Code 60119A. We hold a public hearing to inform or answer questions regarding our instructional materials or lack thereof. I am happy to report that we have no findings of lack of instructional materials for the school year. And we are moving forward on a later agenda item for the board to hopefully approve that action item. But we are here to answer any questions or concerns regarding the insufficiency or sufficiency of our instructional materials for the 24-25 school year.
Any comments? All right, so then we are closing the public hearing and now we are reconvening our regular meeting. Next up is information and discussion, board member reports. I'll start. I know last week or last month rather, Brownell, you were talking about New Life Canines. I'm a part of that where I work. And I got an email that they were looking for exposure to young people for some of their dogs. And so I emailed Jen and she brought it to the safety committee and I'm happy to report that they're going to be coming here to bring their dogs so they can get exposed to little kids and the kids can learn about the dogs. It's just a win-win. So I think that's pretty cool. Well,
That's
thank you
great.
for entertaining that.
Yeah, it'll be in mid-October, so they're settling in on their date. And they'll be able to teach the kiddos about what their dogs do and the importance of it. But then also for their benefit, get the dogs more comfortable around larger groups. They're very lovely, non-aggressive dogs. So there's really a very minimal risk for that and a lot of reward.
That's all I have.
I don't really have anything school related. No.
I went to the CACC meeting, I guess that was last week, and, I love going to those meetings like Susan does as well, and I think you do too, Carrie, and so it's great to hear what's going on, and I shared with them what's going on at our school and, really put a push for the carnival for, people to come and to the carnival and enjoy it and bid on our silent auction items. And then also I went back to school and again sat through the first PTA meeting. I think that was the first PTA meeting of the year. And I was just really impressed with how the PTA is organized this year. I feel like they've got, as we heard, a lot of really great plans going forward. And then I went and visited the elementary school rooms and every teacher there had a good number of parents, which was really impressive. I love to see the parents coming here for back to school night, and every single one of the instructors had a really nice PowerPoint presentation, it seemed like, and it just felt like a really great way to start off the year, and everyone was really excited. So
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is going to be a really good year going forward.
Don't have anything to report.
I also went to back to school night. And one of the things that impressed me was the number of students that were here and how many of them weren't alone. Everybody had a friend, and in some cases they had 6 friends, maybe 8, and they all moved around together, sharing. And that really impressed me. No one was by themselves. And you don't see that very often in a lot of schools. So I really like that. Also, there's something about a root beer float. I think that we had.
Yes. I swear, there's something about their root beer float. It's like the best one you
Yeah.
can find. Yeah.
I would have liked to have several of them. I tried to con a couple of kids into going up for me. But they drank what they got. So, anyway, I would highly suggest bringing that back to any day.
A board meeting?
Agreed. I think we need it more than once a year. I was thinking that when I had mine, I'm like, why don't I have these more often? How do I have this once a year? It was delicious. Yeah. And you know, what's interesting about your comment, Liz and I were out during elementary and middle school lunch today, eating lunch with the kids, and we actually made the same comment, and how this year in particular, the friendships and the groups of friends and the kids working together was just, we stopped and we're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And it was that same feeling just today at lunch.
Yeah, you know, I had been a teacher at middle school level for a long time, and I can tell you that, you know, a lot of schools, you don't see that. You see students over on the side, maybe wandering around, and no one talking to them. This time, you know, if it's the case, when school is in session, it's outstanding.
Yeah.
Really is.
I just wanted to make one comment, just an observation when I walked into the school grounds today, as I commented to you. The groundskeeper, the gardener, I don't know what the official title is, were beautiful, sparkly,
Yeah.
beautiful, noticeable. So just a shout out to the person who's taking care of it was really noticeable and beautiful.
Yeah, and I will absolutely pass that on to Manny, and we commented on it daily too, and how hard he works, and he's a new addition to our team. He came to us in March-ish, last year, just amazing, and just friendly and kind, and we're really lucky to have him as part of the Falcon team.
All right, superintendent's report.
Okay, so at the superintendent report, the kiddos talked a lot about some of the things that we're doing, which is great. Just on the academic side, we're really concentrating on writing as an area of growth. And we worked today with middle school and elementary cluster, really talking about our articulation of writing and what's expected across from K and TK actually all the way through. And our teachers are up for the challenge of ramping up our students' ability to independently write numerous types of formal writing, narrative writing, opinion/argument, all of those things. So it's going to be an academic focus you see throughout the year. As a collective team, we'll meet grade level spans and analyze some of the benchmark writing assessments and really see where are the areas that we're starting to see gaps and what we need to do better. So that is one of those launching points, which is great. We are also really proud of the turnout we had for Grandparents' Day. So on this Monday, was that week? This Monday, oh my gosh, it's been a long week. I know, this Monday, we celebrated grandparents as well as Patriots Day on our Monday morning announcements. And we had, to our right, between parents and grandparent supporters, 35 to 45 people.
Wow.
It was shocking. We had coffee and we had donuts and muffins and fruit for all of them, and had some special moments of celebrating the important role our extended family give us the opportunity as working parents or as single parents, whatever it may be, to help support that learning process. It was lovely, really lovely. We have some great pictures on our Instagram of some of those grandparents just beaming with their grandkiddos. We did have Thad read out, one of our students who spoke from his heart around the important role a grandparent plays within his life too. So that was wonderful. We are coming up next week on Constitution Week, and so we'll be sharing with the board and the community how we acknowledge Constitution Week. It starts with Monday's flagpole, which Liz and I addressed, just the beauty of being in a nation where we have freedoms and protections. And we're really trying to communicate this message. We did so also in the remembrance of 9/11. Especially in a season where our kids are hearing a lot of rhetoric about division and really talking about, as Americans, there's a lot to be proud of. We're not perfect in any way, but there's a lot to be proud of and celebrated as Americans. And so we will also continue that lesson on through our classrooms. And so we'll be sharing that with you guys as well. And it's going to be a great week, a really great week. Lastly, I think the only other thing that I really want to emphasize as we scroll down just a bit. Yeah, keep on going. Okay, there we go. Great. Is that we're in full swing with all these events that are happening. So we have a lot of enrichment opportunities. The girls highlighted some of those. In September, we have some big ones coming up. One of those is Rock Your School. It's going to be great. And I will tell you, it's at 2 o'clock. The assembly is going to be at 2 o'clock on September 27th. It's a Friday. And it's it's launching the idea that as adults and as kids, we do things, we wake up in the morning, we get ready for school, we get ready for work, and we kind of get in these patterns of behavior. And sometimes it's great to stop and do something different. And so we are launching it with a full-blown assembly, a band, all of this. So the kids are going to feel like rock stars. But I think that, yeah, it's going to be great. But even more than that, it launches into the next month where our teachers are going to have this 2-day span where they completely transform their classrooms into these immersive classrooms where there's themes. Like, for example, one of the teachers is jumping into a camping theme. So the kids are coming in and their room is going to look like a campsite. And everything when they're learning is going to be tied. So they're still learning the standards, they're writing and they're reading and they're doing their math, but all with the theme of their classroom, whether that's glow sticks or Mario Kart or whatever it may be. And the idea is, as adults and kids, to do a sort of jolt out of a rut that you can get into and have that immersive kind of cool thing. Because it not only will really fill the cup of the teacher, because they're going to be energized by this transformed classroom, but also the activities and the enthusiasm from the students. So this is part of last year, we took a team, Liz and I, braved Las Vegas with our teachers. We took a large team on a 3-day weekend. We missed no school. It was actually all just on the Saturday, Sunday, Monday of the 3-day weekend. And it was
get your teach on.
Yeah, get your teach on. It was about celebrating the profession and being proud of being an educator, but also making sure that you're continually looking at, is there something else I could do here? Is there how can I get the energy and the enthusiasm so it's not this kind of rigor, just cycle of the same thing in and out, because that is not something that's enthusiastic. So partnering with PTA to help fund some of the cool decorations for those classroom transformations. The first year is the most expensive, but that's just because you're building the kits.
Right.
And then after that, if first grade does camping one year and Mario Kart another, then teachers will have kind of this just choosing of what they would like to do. Kudos to our education professionals, because not everybody comes into, the school the same way I do. And I realize that, I'm jumping in ready to dress up in my rock gear or whatever it may be, but they're all willing to try. And it really is about revamping and looking at their lessons. What have they taught? How can they get their kids or themselves excited about teaching the same thing they may have taught for 15 to 20 years? And it's going to be great. It really is. So I'll send more information out to parents. We are inviting parents to that assembly as well, so they can see their kids rocking and just with the message of rocking kindness and doing something different. Like being brave out there to say, hey, I want to try this, and jumping in to learning. So it's going to be great. Last but not least, we're rounding off the month of September with Career Week.
which is a wonderful partnership with our community where we have volunteers come in who have careers and they highlight their careers. The kids, the little ones go through a career fair where they get little individual or small group, I should say, seminars on the careers. And then the older students, 5th through 8th grade, will actually have a panel of these same people, which are different professions, and they're able to kind of talk show style. We'll do a nod to Bill Donahue, rest in peace. Tell me about your career. How did you get started? What did that look like to get them kind of enthusiastic about these different opportunities? We already have a partnership with the Sheriff's Department, bringing some of their fancy rides and having law enforcement present. We had a big presence of fire department last year. We had a professional surfer last year and an artist, realtor. We had lots of great people. So we are looking for new people. So anyone watching, or if you guys think of it, drop up Liz or myself a quick email. So we have the feelers out there of people who would be a great addition to that panel so that our kids are exposed to all the different opportunities out there and maybe not just the things that they see within their own home. So that would be great. So that's the superintendent report for September. Thank you.
Teachers.
I know, I'm like, they're like, well, worst case scenario, Miss Gabrielle, you could do it, or Miss B, and we're like, you see us every day. You can ask us, we're gonna find you other people.
That's funny. All right, 9.3 LCAP update.
Great, so the local control accountability update is that we are moving forward with our meetings this year, and our LCAP, we still have our 4 main goals that look at academic goals. So we want to not only continue to have great success. I did just receive last Friday a notice from the California Department of Ed that the public release of our scores that relate directly to academic goal 1 are going to be done mid-October. So that public release will be mid-October. There will be a confidential release the board will see a week prior to those academic scores. So that is moving forward in that. Big point of that academic goal is not only having high achievement, but closing the achievement gap. So one of the things as we dove into with our first blush of our data that we saw roll in was that we continue to have a gap of achievement between our Hispanic group and our other population of students. So that's an area where we're digging into, looking at what we're seeing and doing to help support all students with our intervention and enrichment services. So that's one of the noted gaps that we've seen. But more to come when there is public release of information, because then I can give you the hard numbers of what that looks like. Then we have our continual commitment. One of the things that makes Cayucas, one of the many things that makes Cayucas such a special place is our visual and performing arts and that commitment to it. With that said, making sure that all students will have exposure to not only music and drama, but the art in sense of painting and maybe even expanding into some play work there, which would be so pretty cool this year. With that note, we have selected our fall play. It's Charlotte's Web. We had the privilege to sit down during the auditions, just as a thinking partner to the drama teacher. And those kids came in ready. I mean, they came in and it was tough to look at the casting, because I think over half of them could have been any of the leads. I mean, it was so great. So that's going to be lovely. That is
October, right?
September. No,
I thought it was October.
October 17th and 18th, I believe.
Well,
That
okay.
Friday, Saturday. Let me check very quickly. 18th and 19th, excuse me, Friday and Saturday.
October though, right?
Yes, October. Over half the plays already memorized. Their little spongy brains. It's amazing. Even when they auditioned, right? How many were off script? I mean, I was sitting there like, wait, what? Yeah,
And this is a play with some pretty long monologues.
Yes.
Too.
it's gonna be powerful. It's gonna really be great.
Great.
We have committed to culture and climate as our 3rd goal, which is making sure there's a positive connection for students. Every student being connected to something here at that school, feeling valued and seen and heard. That's why we revamped electives for them to see, like, what is that? Am I interested in engineering or in this or that? making sure that they have access to our sports, and really having a kind, caring community at our school. Last but not least, college and career readiness. So even though they're little, we want to make sure, like with Career Week, and college awareness, we do a college week in the spring. That there's lots of opportunities. There's ways to go through academic ways, career technical education, and that we're aligning those with our local high schools, especially the ones that are most frequently attended to: Coast, San Luis High, and Morro Bay. So those are our LCAP goals. Our first meeting, I know Gretchen has it on her calendar. I thought it's on
September 13th.
17th of September.
Oh, 17th.
It's at 8 o'clock. Everyone in the community is welcome to attend. We will basically go over the budget, how we spend our local dollars, and then make sure that the goals and actions are aligned to the community input. So that'll be our first meeting, 8 o'clock on September 17th. And that's our update on the LCAP.
All right, excuse me. Yeah, section 10 is consent agenda. 10.1 is approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Friend.
Aye.
Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Brownell.
Aye.
Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, action session 11.1, review approved donations.
Staff recommends approval of the donation that you see. We have a community member who for years now has dedicated set number of dollars throughout the year to help families afford the after school program. So Donna Dawson, multiple times throughout the year, contributes her own personal dollars to help families in our community with the after school program. So we wholeheartedly thank her as well as recommend approval.
I move that we accept Donna Dawson's generous gift.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Trustee Friend.
Aye.
Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Brownell. Aye. Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, 11.2, review approved the 23-24 unaudited actuals financial report.
Thank you. That's what I really focused.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I promise not to bore you. I know that all the board members have sat through the unaudited actuals before. And so we are going to do the 5,000 viewpoint, and then we can dig into any more detail and numbers that you would like. But I'll start with the big overview and then any specific questions. Before I get started, we do have Jenny Doherty here from the fiscal department of San Luis Obispo County Office of Education. She is our partner and incredibly helpful. She is starting year 2 in Cayugas. So first time I've had 2 years in a row of the same fiscal person. And so we are very thankful and not letting her go. So she will be here to support any of our questions if we need them. And then in addition to her, we have Melanie online. Most of you know Melanie Weemay, and she does a beautiful job supporting the work in our business office and this report. So very quickly, the unaudited actuals are part of the public school budgetary process. It's actually my favorite. I think it's my favorite financial report, and I don't even know if you should have favorite financial reports,
Of course.
but it is mine. Oh yes, you understand. The reason I like the unaudited actuals is it's like, well, how did we do? Right? So you're throwing darts at this moving target. You're hoping that the monies come in the way they're projected to come in, that the state follows through, and that the cash comes in from the state in a timely manner, all of these things, and lots of moving parts, $5 million worth of moving parts. And at this point, we have closed the books on last school year, and we say, okay, how did we do? And how close were we? And that impacts obviously the next part of the budgetary process, which is the first interim, which will happen in December. So it's all of this cycle that goes through, but I do like this part. So if you could go to slide 2, you'll see that we did incredibly well on
Amazing.
on the total expenditure. So in our budget for last year, which we created a year ago in June for this year that we're looking at. So we're looking at the 23-24 year. So we're talking about all last year. A year before that, we created a budget. You'll see that our expenditures, which you want to, those are the things that I can actually control, right? The revenues, a lot of those I can't control the revenues as much because the state giveth and they taketh away. So in this case, we had budgeted 5,020,791. And in our actuals, we're looking at 5,026,303.
That's amazing.
Which is less than a 1% variance of where we were.
Nice job.
Which is awesome. And that's a large part of Jenny and Melanie, our whole team's work on this, but really great in that case. This is, the expenditures are where districts at times can get in a great deal of trouble when you budget a certain way and you don't have stop gaps with your spending, over higher positions, those type of things. So that's great. Then you look at revenues, and the revenues we control a little bit less, but
Cut
in
off.
this case,
That's what
oh,
we-
did yours cut off?
Yeah, ours is cut off, so I'm looking at it on Carrie's.
Oh, that's a bummer. I'm so sorry.
No,
It's fine, I can.
Okay.
I looked at it online, so.
Okay, yeah, and I can always send it to you guys as a PDF. I apologize for that. I know I was like, wait, what?
No, we're looking,
The actual column was cut off on these.
Yeah,
Oh.
so we're,
You
yeah.
can get it from board docs too.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I looked at it on board docs, so it's not a big deal.
Oh, God.
I'm just,
Darn it.
I'm just-
Okay, mine doesn't look quite like that, so that's a bummer. Okay, the next one we're looking at is revenues. So in the case of revenues, 71% of our revenue comes from property tax. And so what you can see here, in this case, you'll see that we had budgeted a total of $5 million in revenues, 98,000. We received 5,178,000. Again, very close to the target. And in this case, if we're going to err on the side of revenue, this is how you want it error, which is that you are a little bit more conservative with the revenue. Karen, you can give this to trustee Castillo too. That one's not cut off.
I'm looking
Just
under.
don't look at all the comments I write. So you'll see within this case, that was great. In fact, the end of this story is that because we actually had increased revenue and a little tighter spending, that you'll see a benefit at the end of ours, that we have erred on the side of being a little conservative, so which helped our bottom line. Okay, next one. Our reserves. So with that, as you guys know, the reserves are money that is not spent throughout the district. Our unaudited actuals is putting our reserve at 32%, which sounds incredibly high. But what we found last year, our lesson learned last year, or my lesson learned last year, which I shared publicly with you guys as well, is that when you have a budget, even though it's $5 million, great impact can happen in that budget in a very easily, quick way in education. Which could be one placement in special education can look at a variance of anywhere from 5 to 11%. So although we're closing the books at 32%, you're going to see when we look at our multi-year projection, that's quickly eaten up by some increased costs that we can't control when you have public education. So right now, we're closing the bottom line with just under $400,000 more than we had predicted from our budget. Largely in part that we received about $200,000 more in revenue than we had predicted, which again is a good problem to have. And then with that, we thought our contributions to certain funds was going to be a little higher, so that we actually tightened the belt and didn't have as a greater contribution. So that's why we are where we are. So that's where we're at, which is great. And if we go to the next slide, this is, as I always tell you guys, and you have a separate, is it yours cut off on this one too?
No,
no,
Okay, good.
well,
This is actually my favorite paper. It's the multi-year projection. So in the pink or red column, what you see here is the unaudited actuals. So that's where you see, okay, this is actually when we close the books, where the money looks like and where we're at. I have noted on this slide here, some red arrows. This is super essential for us to look at. So even though we look at our bottom line having a reserve greater than 15%, which is what the board has determined as a more comfortable place to be, and I completely agree with. That blue line, which is next year's budget. So green is this year, then blue shaded area is next year's budget, has what we discussed in spring, the $300,000 that has been reduced from the budget. And we did that in our commitment to make sure that we stayed above the 15% reserve. That means that when we build the budget for next year, because we're already in this year, it's already moving, that when we build the budget for next year, we would have a reduction of 300,000. Good news to this is that because our unaudited actuals came in better than projected, that very likely we will not have to cut the $300,000 from that. I'm not asking the board to make any decisions on that today. Today is about getting comfortable with the unaudited actuals. Then next board meeting, I'm going to bring back to you more information about the budget. And then in November, we're going to actually get hard on the numbers about projecting out where we need to be. And we'll have a lot more information regarding a slide that we're going to talk about next, which is the huge increase in special education. So November will really be more about those decisions. And you don't have to make any now, because remember, this is still a year out. Where we do need to make them, where our deadline is as leaders and the difficulty around making decisions, is that statute in ed code determines that prior to March 15th, if there's any type of reductions for staff, whether that is like a partial FTE or a position that won't be here next year, which makes up over 80% of our budget, those all need to be made prior to March. So that's why we talk about it, trying to really get a pulse on it in November. And then this board in November will have a lot of time and information. Again, the budget will be our topic in October. We'll bring it back in November with any type of updates. December, we have the first interim where we've kind of righted the ship on, hey, what does this influx of money and on the unaudited actuals actually do to our bottom line moving out? And then final decisions would be January or February. So lots of time to process, lots of good decisions. We are not making fast decisions because everything that we do in Cayucas is pretty darn special for kids. And so any type of reductions like that will have direct impact on students. And we want to be very careful about that. But the good news is that with the unaudited actuals coming in higher, and then with very likely our special education costs being adjusted at first interim, I believe that the reduction will be minimal. So, but more to come with that. Okay, with that, one of the variables that we cannot control is the federal and state monies that are contributed to special education. So since the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act came about, there has been a gap into cost and funding, and there is always going to be a cost of special education to a local district. But frustration of that has grown over the years for almost every district in America, because what you're finding is that there is greater and greater contribution, or what people call encroachment, on the general fund. So here's a nice little slide that would show you that. In 2021, so we just went back a few years to give us kind of a pulse. So in 2021, we received $273,000 from state and federal dollars to help counterbalance the expensive costs of special education. And then you'll see that it's gone up a little bit to about 20,000, then it's up to 318, 309. And those are based on enrollment of students that you have, and then any type of COLA that could be applied, cost of living increases at either a state or federal level. But generally speaking, there hasn't been some vast change in the formula from state and federal lawmakers, even though there's this discrepancy, and they've always said we want to fund it about 40%. In these years, we were funded closer to about 30% of our costs. So in our little Cayucas, our discrepancy wasn't as great. And then last spring happened where we had a great increase, and this is not a typo. It's a 338% increase in our special education contribution. So instead of what we were contributing between 120,000 up to 160, which was the gap of special education costs from the federal and state government and what we pay out of local monies, that is going up this year projected to $708,000.
Wow.
This was the kind of last spring when we all had that gut check, and I contacted you guys all individually and said, hey, there might be some changes within that budget that is a little unexpected. We've talked about that. These pertain to some very high needs, high costs, placements and services of students who live in our resident area. So if they live in our area, it is our obligation through what's called IDEA, or the Individuals with Disability Act, and our responsibility to provide a free and appropriate education. It is a stark increase, and you see as $708,000 is roughly 12% of our total budget. And that's just the increase of our contribution. That's already, that doesn't even count the money taking out the $310,000 of the federal government. That means we're spending over $1 million in special education. With that said, we will have at first interim an adjustment from that increase. As when we budgeted this, we did have a placement of a student who did not end up going to our school district. So there'll be some adjustments made with that, and it will give us a pulse of where we're at. It is a great lesson learned in a small district, the impact of 3 to 4 students around the financial needs of the district, and for us to look at making sure our special reserve has earmarked dollars in special education. And that's something that the previous superintendent also planned for. And before, that cushion was roughly $200,000, which is what you expect in our size. But we will probably have to look at that adjustment just because of the history that we have now, and making sure that we have planned accordingly. So that's where we're at with that. And that's the sort of roller coaster you felt a little bit in the spring. I know I felt, because I thought, oh my goodness gracious. We planned so well, we budgeted so well, and all these factors that we could control, our team and hopefully my contribution a little bit to that has really shored all that up. But there are factors you can't control sometimes. So we just have to plan for those rainy days of reserves and cases. I believe, okay, it's just the summary. So with all of that stated, we will be presenting a positive certification to the County Office of Education, as we are above the required state amount and our district amount of 15% in reserves, not only when we close the books, but in looking at our out years as we continue. So the next formal presentation on budget will be the first interim in December. That's where we will really dig into those possible reductions. And I did note on there and call it again, that as you look at not this year, but the next year out, that reserve number of, I believe, 23% does have the $300,000 in reductions. But what it doesn't have articulated into it is the monies that we have saved, accumulated in our unaudited actuals that will also be projected into those numbers. So that's where it all gets sort of leveled out, and we say, okay, here's where we're at. So that's where we are with our wonderful unaudited actuals. Again, Jenny, I can't thank you enough. I always have a million questions for her, and hey, this is what my head's thinking, is this right? And she's so timely with her answers and helpful and positive.
I just had a question. Number one, developer fees.
Yes.
I noticed they were $70,000 last year, which is up quite a bit. And
It
then
almost doubled from the year before. So we
Right.
sat at an average of close to 48 to 50,000 for quite some years. Then we had the dip, and we were right at 35 ish for about 2 years. Now we went back up, and actually that was one of the benefits of our revenue increase.
Okay, yeah. And then I noticed it's for the 2025, we've budgeted 105,000. Is that just because of things that are going through Public Works right now? I mean,
There's a couple of things in there for that 105,000.
I mean, again, that's just quite a big jump, so those numbers really jumped out at me.
Yeah, I believe that is the contribution of not only that, but it is the combination of is that the site reimbursables as well? And
Yes.
Yeah. so that is a total number. So it is looking at maintaining a 4%
Uh-huh.
in developer fees. Although last year actually spiked up. I think when we do the math, it'll be closer to 6.5. But our average is closer to that 4%. But included in that is any other positive contributions into the budget, which would include, like, for example, site, which is our insurance, workers' comp, they contribute about $8,000 to us, and then all these other contributions that come in to total that amount.
And then I noticed Rotary gave us, what was it? $12,000 and some change last year, and boy, thank you, Rotary.
Yeah, so Rotary, and I think we talked about this very briefly at our last meeting. They have historically given us $10,000 in which basically our teachers can request projects, materials, and such. And like, for example, Mr. Wade just requested some advanced Legos because the kiddos who took Legos last year have done some of the builds. So he had a couple like more advanced kits, and so we ordered just 4 more. And Rotary is like, yeah, that's great. As long as it fits their guys. And then last year, they increased that by $2,000, and it helped fund our Summer Literacy Academy. As we were kind of tightening the belt, I humbly asked them if there was a way that they could contribute $2,500 to that Summer Academy, and they without a flicker, they were like, absolutely yes. So
Nice.
big supporters. So staff recommends approval of the unaudited actuals.
I move that we approve the 2023-2024 unaudited actuals.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
11.3, review approve resolution 2024-05, adopting the GAM limit.
So the GAM limit, so I went from my favorite report to my least favorite report. And I guess the reason why this is my least favorite is that it seems kind of silly to me. And it's one of those things that, and Susan, you'll agree with me, which is that it came into play in the 1978-1979 year, in which Representative Dan looked at trying to equal out revenue limits. So the amount of increases and kind of the contribution in which people can pay a per pupil cost. But the GAM limit itself is still calculated at this rate where they look at the population change and the per capita income change and make sure that there isn't an increase greater than that, so that it creates disparity, even greater disparities amongst different areas. So very high income areas or low income areas, and the student funding regarding that, right? The part that makes it a little frustrating for us is that this GAM limit, although required by the California Department of Finance, doesn't pertain to what used to be called basic aid, which is now community funded schools. So because a community funded school in nature and definition must, for student purposes, have a higher limit per pupil expenditure than a state funded school or ADA funded, attendance funded school, will never be outside, will always be in and above that revenue limit, which is fine. You can't be under the revenue limit, you can be over it. So we still need to do it. We calculate it every year, every district does, and it's sent to the California Department of Finance, and it's literally every finance person I talk to, it's one of those hoops that you jump through. Because I think, am I missing something? I've talked to, 7 of our like CBOs within this area in Santa Barbara County, like, what am I missing? Am I missing the importance of this? And like, I can't find someone who finds it important, so I'm still searching and trying to find a way, but, right now I can't, but if staff does recommend approval, we are within the limits. Obliged to the state of California around, the GAN limit, and we will send it off and continue to do this process. Yeah, check. Thank
I'll
you
make a
very much.
motion to adopt the GAM.
Mary's air check mark.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Brownell. Aye. Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Brent.
Aye.
Trustee Wright.
I guess
I appreciate your comment, because you're like, what? No, yeah, and so Chris and I had, questions and answers around this, and I'm like, yep, you got it.
It does seem like busy work. but
Yes.
yeah.
Luckily, it doesn't take very long.
11.4, review approved resolution 2024-07. Resolution regarding sufficiency or insufficiency of instructional material.
So attached to this, we had our public hearing. Staff did note that we have all the materials that we need for our students. We didn't have a gap within like delivery of materials, and we're not sitting waiting for books to arrive. And so we have, we can sit in front of you saying we have sufficient materials in all levels.
It's funny that I signed
And
this
so
one.
staff
and you
recommends
sign this
approval of the sufficiency and insufficiency of instructional materials
Like
resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2024 resolution regarding official media resolution. Instructional material.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Brent.
Aye.
Trustee Wright.
Aye.
And Trustee Brownell.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, at 11.5, Slocum and Cayugas Elementary School District AB 1200.
So Assembly Bill 1200 is a safeguard in which basically you look at districts negotiate locally with their unions. And then the County Office of Education, one of their key roles is to make sure that the negotiations conducted at the local level have sufficient funds to back that negotiation. And so in order for it to officially be implemented, you have an outside person, not directly part of the negotiations, look over the numbers and make sure, yes, they have sufficient money to negotiate that. And that's the AB 1200. So the attached letter sent by Dr. Brescia verifies that they have looked at our budget and the negotiated factors around health benefits. That was done last spring. And they are sending our AB 1200. It's coming a little later this time because we had a transition of the County Office of Education Chief Business Officer. So it used to be Sheldon Smith for many, many years. He has retired, which is awesome, and he's riding his bike wherever he wants. And we are very thankful for years of service and support throughout the county. And now he's been replaced by Aaron Asplund, who is the previous superintendent in Templeton, who had a long history of being a chief business officer prior to superintendent. And he works alongside Dr. Brescia to assure that this is an adequate review of funds. So staff recommends approval of the AB 1200.
I move that we accept the AB 1200.
I second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Trustee Brent.
Aye.
Trustee Wright. Trustee Brownell.
Aye.
And Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
11.6, tentative agreement between CESD and CTA negotiations 23-24.
For last year. Yeah, so as the board is aware, and again, we had to hold on the board officially approving this, for anyone watching in the public. As a superintendent, I negotiate on behalf of the board, so you guys are quite aware that we offered an increase in health benefits to our employees. That would be our contribution to the cost of their health benefits. But until the official AB 1200 was received by the board, the MOU couldn't come. So I know that you guys have seen it. We've talked about it. I am happy to report that we do have the largest contribution to all employee groups in the county of San Luis Obispo. So we are doing our very best to take care of our staff, to keep consistent staff, to show them that we appreciate and care about them and the health of their families and partners and kids. And we do that by contributing to the very high offsetting costs of health benefits.
We will be renegotiating this year for salary and benefits and hopefully look at a multi-year deal with our bargaining units after the first interim. So that will be something later coming, but staff recommends approval of the increase of contribution to the health benefits.
I'll make a motion that we approve the increase of the health benefits.
A second.
Any further discussion? Trustee Brand,
Aye.
trustee Wright. Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Ross.
Aye.
Trustee Castillo.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, and that takes place October 1st. So the one interesting part of all this, the fiscal year and the calendar year is our benefit year, which is new benefits take place October 1st. So it's perfect timing for that to be in play on the new plans and benefits starting in October.
Alrighty, section 12, review of action items, tasking and calendar. I have a curious, last month I mentioned about wanting to have a candidate forum. Did we make any headway on that?
Yeah, so Mary and I tag team that task, like we do many tasks. And I had put in some feelers to the League of Women Voters. They did get back to me simultaneously when that was happening. We reached out to the 4 candidates in the 2 areas. And jump in if I don't paraphrase this correctly, but it appears to me that one is enthusiastically excited about having an opportunity to have a forum, and the other 3 are less than enthusiastic. I think the premise around their less than enthusiasm around it is that we are such a small community that is divided into these very small districts in which most neighbors know each other and the community, and therefore are less thrilled to go through that. With that said, the League of Women Voters would extend an invitation if all candidates wanted to do it to either a virtual or in person. The in-person, they said the timeline is getting quite tight on, and that they would lean towards a virtual one more, but they would really need a strong commitment from all.
Well, yeah, no, if
4.
not everybody's interested, then
Yeah.
it's not. Okay.
But we did follow through with that.
I didn't realize I'm on the bylaw committee. Am I?
I believe you are on the bylaw
Okay,
committee.
so I would like to review bylaw 9250 on remuneration, reimbursement, and other benefits to board members, just to tighten up some language. 9250.
Great. So you and I will meet beforehand, kind of look at it, and then Carrie and I can bring some ideas back to the board.
I thought you were on the committee.
I think I'm on.
She was on it the year.
Oh, we
cycle before.
switched.
It's
Right,
switched,
right,
yeah.
right.
Yep,
Okay.
she's on the
Because now I'm
legislative
at the-
action committee.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Just an FYI, next month's board meeting, I'm gonna be out of town on Sacramento, so I most likely won't attend. I don't know if it's gonna be feasible to try to do it on teleconferencing or not, but most likely I will not be here.
Okay.
I'll keep Jen updated.
Cool. Anything else in the upcoming meetings that we're looking? We won't have it next meeting. We do have our auditors finishing up this week, so they will bring something back prior to December for approval, but they're finishing this week, so it probably won't be till the November meeting. If we're lucky, if not, it'll be the December meeting, but it does need to go prior to December 15th. But so far so good, and Melanie's been wonderful supplying them with almost everything they need, or asking Jenny or Mary. Yeah, all of the things. But that'll be great. Okay. I think that's it on our end.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
I made a note.